Welcome back to Senior Savvy Cannabis. I'm Catherine Goldberg. So my seedling popped up and I have a very specific question for Chase today. How do I know how much light my plant needs to thrive? I have an idea, but is there like is there a right way to figure out how much light my plant needs?
Absolutely.
Okay, so how do I even begin to think about that?
Using tools and math, we can determine the right way to know the right amount of light for your plant.
Okay, so the reason I'm asking Chase this question now is because after my seedling popped up, it would fall over very quick, like the stem.
Like a toothpick.
Yeah, it wasn't as thick as I thought it was gonna be. And I called Chase and said that, I think something is wrong. So can we start by saying how we kind of diagnosed the issue and
Sure.
what we did?
Something was wrong.
Something was wrong, yeah.
The light was not strong enough, not turned up to the right level. And so, you want to talk about how we diagnosed it? Sure.
Yeah.
So basically with lighting, the scientific way to do it is to use a par meter.
Okay.
These have gotten a lot cheaper in the last few years. I've seen them for as little as $40 on Amazon.
Okay.
I bought this one 8 years ago for like $300. So they've come down a lot in price. This measures the intensity of light. And so PAR means photosynthetically active radiation. How deep of a dive we're going to go here, but that is the range of the visible light spectrum that plants can use.
Okay.
And so that's all we care about in a horticultural situation, a growing situation, is the amount of light the plant can use.
More so than
measures.
The fact that our Spider Farmer light was on at 11%. Like that.
Well, that was too low, but how we determine it's too low is by using a par meter.
Got it.
You can't just,
assume it's too low.
Right. There's guidelines. There's general guidelines on Spider Farmer's site and on all lighting manufacturers' site. Some lighting manufacturers will have what's called like a par chart.
Okay.
That says like if your light's at 100% and it's at 18 inches above your canopy, then looking down on your canopy, this spot is getting 800 par, this is getting 600, 400, 200, 300. But I didn't see that much detail on Spider Farmer's site. And so, you can ballpark it and do some math off of those par charts, but the best way to do it is with a par meter.
Okay, so we put the par meter in. We got a reading.
Yep.
And then...
Well, I think actually before, I went ahead and just ballparked it and said, go 12 inches above the canopy and at 30%.
Right, okay. So
I'm not familiar, I hadn't used the Spider Farmer light before. I'm kind of ballparking from anecdotal. Figured you'd be in the right ballpark for a seedling.
Okay, and then I got a tape measure and I put it in the soil and I measured up to about 18 inches above it, and then I moved the light down to that part. We
did 18, okay, that's right.
When we built the tent, we just put the light where it was, and it didn't even occur to me that it had to be closer to the seedling. So I'm glad it only took 1 or 2 days of watching a sad seedling to figure that out. And then we went from 11% on the app to 30% intensity on the light.
We dropped down in height.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure we went from, my memory was 18 down to 12.
Okay.
And then went up from 11 to 30%.
Okay.
That also was like, you never want to make drastic changes quickly with plants. And so that felt safe enough to me, but until I could get over here with the par meter.
Okay.
That we'd be in the ballpark.
Okay, and then what did you learn from using the par meter?
Sure, so with the par meter, I popped this in, went into the canopy, and it said 310. That's a unit of measurement, PPFD, which just high level is the amount of photons hitting light photons, hitting a set area at any one moment in time. It's a measure of intensity.
Okay.
And so 300 is the measurement of intensity.
Okay.
And then what we need to do is plug that. So there's another acronym, of course, DLI, daily light integral. That's really what you want to base your light on, in my opinion. The daily light integral is the total amount of light received by effectively a plant or an area right?
Okay.
It's not, so this is a snapshot
I
of
see.
how much light is that second. DLI is, all right, you got that much light for 12 hours, what's the DLI?
Okay.
And a good DLI for autoflowers for full size flowering autos is 35 to 45 DLI.
Okay.
And so you can use a simple DLI calculator on Google. We plugged in 300, our light's on for 18 hours, times 18 hours, and we got 20 for a DLI, which for a seedling is fine. Now we'll want to slowly move up to that 35 to 45 range of DLI as the plant gets bigger.
Okay. So now that the seedling, it isn't sad anymore, and you said that for as tall as it is, it's probably that much low as well.
The taproot.
The taproot.
Yep, so the first root that comes out of the seed is called the taproot.
Okay.
And yeah, generally you've got about a 4-incher in there, and so the taproot's somewhere around 3 to 5 inches down.
Okay, so we've been at it about a week or so. So how do I know how often I need to adjust the light?
Sure.
Like both in terms of as the plant gets taller, so the light needs to move, and also the intensity of the light, or the percentage.
Sure, so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna decide on a DLI schedule.
Okay.
And so then you'll keep the par meter.
Okay.
You'll have to do the math, right, at the canopy level, but basically week 1, we're gonna shoot for this DLI. Week 2, we're gonna shoot for this DLI.
Okay.
We can maybe post that, or you can post
Yeah, we'll
that
post the calculator.
Yeah, post the calculator and also kind of what we decided to land on DLI value.
Okay.
If you want.
So the DLI value is kind of our guiding compass
For light.
for light, and it's
Yeah.
going to change throughout the cycle of the plant?
It's going to increase.
Okay.
And also think about this. If that light doesn't move, as the plant grows to it, the DLI is increasing the closer the plant gets. Because the way the light works, the farther away from the plant, the less intense the light. And so it's not like you have to every day move the plant up. It's not that exact, right? I mean, outdoor, think about in nature, right? We have rainy days, cloudy days, sunny days, all that. It's about an average.
Okay.
And so, you know, there's, I guess, that you don't want to have the plant too close to the light for a heat purpose. With LEDs, it's not really a big issue. With other people are using other lights like HPS or ceramic metal halide lights, they get a lot hotter. And so you always want to be aware of your canopy temperature and its proximity to the light.
Okay.
So that may force you to move the light up, but basically if you're not forced to move the light up,
Don't move it.
yeah, you just want to adjust the intensity.
I see.
Right?
Okay.
And so you follow the canopy along with this par meter, and that guides, I shouldn't need to move the light up.
Wow.
You probably will at some point.
Yeah, that's
right?
interesting.
But generally, before you move the light up, play with the percentage to hit your DLI mark.
And what's the next milestone that, since now the seedling isn't sad, what should I be looking for next?
Well, we want to think about training.
Okay.
Training the plant.
Okay, even though it's still brand new?
We'll just think about it.
Okay.
We're not training it
Okay.
yet.
Okay.
We're thinking about it. Yeah, you always want to be 2 steps ahead,
Okay.
right? And so we want to use trellis net.
Okay.
We haven't talked about this yet, but we're going to do what's called screen of green.
Okay.
Which is essentially like a 4x4 or 5x5 square trellis net pulled across the tent, and you can work the plant into that net. And it's all for, in an indoor situation, it's all about maximizing the number of bud sites in the ideal area footprint. You know what I mean? Like light footprint.
Okay.
And so if you just let that plant grow natural, we'd get a terminal bud, we'd have side shoots along the way. These would not be getting enough light. This would be getting too much light. We're in a small tent anyways. And so our goal is to, when you look in that tent, you see, you know, a plant coming up, and then hopefully you see buds along the same level.
Okay.
Like a menorah.
Like a menorah. I love it.
Yeah, but like kind of 4-dimensional. You know, or no, that's not the right word to say, but you know what I mean? Like spread out.
Yeah, like a C.
Across the tent.
Yeah.
Yep. Screen of green, scrog.
Screen of green.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to scrog. People, that's how you...
Oh, is that like a verb?
Essentially, yeah, and home.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, scrogging.
Oh, it's cool.
Yep.
Okay.
You're gonna
Learned
scrogging.
something new here
It's a
today.
fun word. It's a fun acronym.
Is there anything else that we need that a new home grower would need to know about light?
Yeah, we're getting off topic on. Yeah, let's get back on light.
Yeah. So what? Because you're kind of
Sure.
you know a lot about the science of this.
Mm-hmm.
So like what's the number one mistake home growers make regarding light?
Probably not buying a par meter.
Okay, because then they're just shooting in the dark.
Yeah. Or having it.
And you're going off your gut feeling then rather than numbers?
Yeah.
Okay.
And light is, it just, if you've made the investment in a tent, in an indoor setting, especially if the prices of par meters have, they've come down, you need a par meter.
Okay.
And I'm an advocate for like not just buying tech for tech's sake.
Of course.
The par meter in an indoor situation, you're setting yourself up. You're decreasing your chance for success.
Okay.
If you don't buy a par meter.
Okay. And then
Yeah.
maybe we'll find a video of someone explaining how to use a par meter. Maybe we'll do a separate one where, it's easy to use, but maybe we'll go through like the steps so someone can feel confident using it if they get excited and purchase one.
Sure. Yeah.
Or so I can get confident in doing it by myself as well.
Yep.
That's the main part.
Yeah, I think with lighting, by the par meter, regardless of whether you have the par meter or not, the mistake is too much light in most cases. You're elevating your heat unnecessarily.
Is too much light more dangerous than too little light, or are they both bad for different reasons?
Too much light will cause light bleaching.
Okay.
And your plant will go like white and necrotic and die. The leaves will just literally get burnt.
Okay, that's bad.
So that's bad.
That's bad.
Not enough light. You've seen it. Your seedling, if you don't, you can get leggy and fall over.
Yeah.
Especially with an auto. So the least beginner friendly thing about autos is that once they start, you're on a time clock, right? And so your first few weeks are critical because the whole cycle only lasts 12 weeks. And so you really want to make sure, it just makes it all the more important to have the right amount of light from the start.
Yeah.
With autos.
Yeah.
So.
Excellent. Okay, so and then I'll just keep an eye on it, and I'll measure.
I love this, by the way.
I know, right?
It's good.
Best
Not
seltzer
sponsored.
on the planet. But if they want to, we have dry mouth.
Facts.
So great. Okay, so we covered light. If you guys have light specific questions, leave them in the comments. I think next time we're going to have a very specific conversation about water and why it was important to let the chlorine evaporate off the tap water, even though we got the tap water tested, and also why it was important to pH down the water before we used it.
pH in the water. Also, I think we're going to discuss the speed of watering, right? The amount, just kind of general best practices for watering.
Totally. And for the seedling, I was using the mister, which was good, but now we're graduating onto the watering can. So I will get a lesson in that, and I was told the slower the better. But we'll have an in-depth conversation about watering. Do you have one more point about par?
Do you want to put a link in the description?
Oh, yeah.
This one for people?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, this is great. Sun System, if you're still in business. I've had this for at least 8 years.
Hopefully they lowered their prices a little bit.
I'll help you find a good one if this is not available anymore.
Amazing.
We'll put a link to a good one.
Okay, don't buy it on Temu.
No.
Don't buy it on Temu.
No, don't.
Okay. That's like a perfect example of when to spend a little bit of money to make sure the accuracy is on.
Yep.
It's a good example.
There's also phone apps. In the last couple of years, there's apps that say they measure par, and I've been wanting to compare it to this.
Yeah, why don't we test
nice
it?
one. So let's.
Okay, we'll test it and let you guys know.
So.
Okay, well, because if it's on par,
Hey.
then save you some money.
Let's do that.
Okay.
That's one of the apps for
Excellent.
Everybody.
Cool. Well, I'm glad that we've had our first hiccup, and it's been observed and diagnosed and corrected
Common
for.
hiccup. Leggy seedling, oh my gosh.
And it's
very
also
common.
something that was reassuring was I was like, oh my God, like I'm only going to get like a gram out of this plant if it's so leggy. And Chase was like, no, like it's not indicative of how it's going to turn out at the end.
No.
Like it's just what's happening right now. So if you have a leggy plant, it's not over.